that I have some. So we're getting less now. I mean, if I keep talking about it, it's not either.
Hi everyone.
How's everyone doing?
So you have to be careful of what you say.
We are recording this, just so you know. None of you are in the shot. It's just Caitlin and I. But if you speak, you might be heard on Facebook. It's on Facebook Live, so that people who couldn't be here today can watch us, or you can go back later and watch us. Yeah, so it's really great for people who couldn't come out. So my name is Clara. This is Caitlin. We are both registered dietitians at Rebecca Bitzer and Associates. So this is our third Cooking for Wellness demonstration. Today we are talking about sugar, which is definitely a hot topic. So we're gonna just go ahead and kind of jump in and get started and keep talking. And if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand, jump around, let us know, and we can try and answer them. All right, so today we are, well, fall is coming. Who's excited about fall?
Yay!
So, fall is personally my favorite season, just because I like the cold weather and football, and pumpkin and apples and baking and everything that comes with it. So we're going to be doing some fall desserts today and talking about the different types of sugars. So we're going to start with an apple oatmeal pudding, and then going to a winter fruit crisp, so kind of fall, also going into winter. And then chewy molasses squares that are kind of a good substitute for our favorite Rice Krispie treats, in case you want to mix something up. Okay, so apple oatmeal pudding time?
Apple oatmeal pudding.
Okay.
Get started.
So I'm going to let you...
I'll cut the butter.
Yeah, go ahead. So the apple oatmeal pudding is actually really easy. It takes no time to put together. It takes a little bit of time in the slow cooker, but it's a great put it in and forget about it, and then you have dessert later. So what I love about this recipe is that it is really, really high in fiber, which is really great if you're trying to increase some of the fiber in your diet. So we're using,
Melt some butter?
Yeah, melt some butter. Put this on. Just gonna melt that a little bit, and then we're gonna use, we can start mixing some of the other things together. All right.
So the sugar in this, I believe, is just the brown sugar.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of brown sugar, and then there's some natural sugar coming from the apple. So the big thing to remember with sugar is that trying to minimize the amount of added sugar you have in your diet is going to be just beneficial overall, and that's something that's really important to be aware of. So there's added sugar, and there's also naturally occurring sugar. So that's also something to note and be aware of, because we hear this word sugar and it kind of is all-encompassing, but there are different types of sugar, and some of them have more health benefits than others.
So on the label, when you look at the label that says sugar, you're seeing both natural and added. So it doesn't really differentiate currently what's added.
Exactly. So for example, on this raisin box, the only ingredient on here, you guys can't see it, but it says just raisin, so it's just grapes. No added sugar, no nothing. But if you look at the sugar content, it says there's 24 grams of sugar in the serving, which is a quarter of a cup. So again, like Caitlin said, though, it doesn't differentiate between the natural and the added sugars. So especially when it comes to dried fruit, and that's something to be aware of depending on what the dried fruit is sometimes they do add sugar to the fruit. Like blueberries, wild blueberries, I've seen them. Some craisins, that's another big one.
Mangoes too.
Certain mangoes, absolutely. So just being aware that if you're buying dried fruit, that it might have added sugar, and just being aware of maybe trying to go for one that doesn't have the added sugar. So we're hopefully going to a nutrition label, and some products already have this, where they are differentiating between natural sugars and added sugars, and that's kind of going to help with being able to differentiate between the two. All right, so we have brown sugar in here.
Brown sugar. I'm working on the flour.
Working on the flour, so I'm going to do the oatmeal in a minute when you give me back the measuring cup.
Could you substitute, Caitlin and Clara? Could you substitute instead of butter? Because I never have butter in the house. A coconut oil?
Yeah, you could do coconut.
Substitute that?
Yeah, coconut oil. Really, it's just providing a little bit of fat to kind of hold everything together, and it Fat also has for a long time gotten a bad rep, and it is really important for helping absorb certain nutrients. There are different types of fat, of course, and some are better than others, but here we're doing very little butter, so coconut oil I think will be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It may change the flavor a little bit because it has that coconut flavor, but it would work well.
Yeah, and we're using flour today, but if you were needing to follow a gluten-free diet for whatever reason, just making sure that you're going for certified gluten-free oats, and then you could do a gluten-free flour substitute. Okay, cup of oatmeal, we got that in there. Do you want to crack some eggs?
Sure. 2 eggs.
2 eggs, and then we're also going to use evaporated milk. So this is just, they find it in the canned food aisle. It's great. It's shelf stable. Be aware, not sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, because sweetened condensed milk kind of tastes like pudding, like a really sweet syrupy thing.
Yeah.
Evaporated milk is basically just milk. All right.
What else goes in there?
That is all that we're, oh, and we need to put some baking soda in there. All right, so about a cup of the evaporated milk.
So when you made the crock pot one, did you just add everything straight to the crock pot and let it go?
Let it go. So we're gonna just do kind of a half demonstration with this one. So all you need to do is mix up the batter the way we're doing it now. You throw it in the crock pot, and then you peel some apples. All I did was peel apples, slice them thinly. I tossed them with also a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of lemon juice, and a little bit of cinnamon, and threw them on top of the batter type mixture, and then I turned it on and let it go for about 4 hours on high, 3.5 to 4 hours.
Do we have apples to put in?
No, we're just gonna taste this. It's like the magic of food TV. Let me know when you're ready.
Am I adding this to the butter?
No, I'm gonna add this
Add
butter
it
to that.
to me?
Yep.
Okay.
So that we can use this for our molasses squares. Alright,
Alright, so then you just mix in the butter,
I'm gonna add in
and then
this,
add in the milk, and then we'll add in the eggs, and we're good to go.
and we're good to go.
It's really like a cake more so than a pudding.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. So I'm gonna start
Little
scooping
things.
some of it up while Caitlin's finishing mixing it up so that you guys can get to taste. And you know, honestly, I think this would taste good with any fruit. Like I think you could do pears or something else. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'm just gonna do a little scoop on it here. Let me go grab the rest of the sweetness. Yeah, and I would keep the plates for
This one you can.
We're just passing it down.
we're just passing them.
What is it anyway?
It's like an apple oatmeal cake.
Apple oat, okay, I'm looking at it, those are apples there?
Mm-hmm, those are apples, yep.
It looks delicious.
Oh, this will be just like last night, wow. But this is like having, what is it, dinner in reverse, I get to eat dessert first?
Eat dessert first.
Always fun to do that. It's more fun when you're a kid, when you're an adult, it's just a given.
Oh, here.
That's something I love to watch. We eat dinner in front of TV, under TV, because I was never allowed to do that as a kid. And I was like, oh, a little rebellious.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's it.
That's it? Okay, great.
If I sat at the dining room table, I wouldn't know what to do.
What is it called again?
Oh, it's the apple oatmeal pudding.
Apple oatmeal pudding. So yeah, this is what the batter looks like. So yeah, what I just did when I made it earlier, I poured it into the crock pot, topped it with the sliced apples, and then turned it on, and you were ready to go.
How long did that take, Clara?
About 3.5 to 4 hours on high.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Could I add honey to that or anything
If
to
you wanted to.
brighten it up or something? Just check.
You could maybe replace some of the brown sugar with honey.
Yeah, I don't know what's the difference between brown and white sugar? Is it just how far it's refined or something, or?
They've added molasses.
They've added molasses. So
Added
it
molasses.
depends on the type of brown sugar it is. If it's like sugar in the raw, usually that's just processed a little differently. If it's brown sugar, wherever our brown sugar is over here,
Yeah.
that they've added molasses too.
Okay.
So
And I don't do much, the white stuff I don't pick up. That's why I've been using honey on that. One of our smoothie things, I've been adding that to my, and it's like I can taste it from one end to the other. It's really,
And each of these recipes, we did the math, and it comes to about a couple teaspoons of added sugar per recipe, which is pretty good for a dessert.
Right. So there are, I mean, plenty of other puddings out there, and when we talk about the crisp in a minute, I mean, sometimes, like, I've made crisps where they call for like half a cup to a cup of sugar just in the topping on the top, and then you're adding, you know, more into with the fruit. So controlling that a little bit, you can really allow the natural flavor to come through from the fruit. And that's also the beauty of picking fruits that are in season. So we've talked a little bit about that last time when we talked about fruits and vegetables, but the fruits that are in season are naturally just going to be sweeter.
How much brown sugar did you add?
A third of a cup.
Do you guys have this posted?
Yeah, the recipes are right over there, actually, I think. There's a pile of them.
Oh, okay.
Yep, they're all there, so. All right, so you want to do molasses squares next?
We're moving on to molasses.
Let's do molasses squares, and we can come back to the crisp.
Sounds great.
Okay, so these molasses squares are kind of like Rice Krispie treats. Maybe I just think that because you use Rice Krispies in them, but
They're nothing like Rice Krispie treats.
I mean, they don't use marshmallows, but they use other fun things. So this is another one that's really, really easy. So we're just going to use this to mindful of how much we're adding to them, or how much of them we are adding to our meals. However, a lot of times some of those sweeteners can have antioxidants and other health benefits that can be helpful. So just being aware of that.
Molasses is a good source of iron.
It is, molasses is a great source of iron. So if you are anemic or need to up your iron a little bit, this is a really good way to do
Where
it.
does molasses come from? I've never thought of that. Is it
Cane
from a
is
tree?
all-
Is it a plant? Is it
No,
a?
it's part of the sugar cane.
It's from sugar cane.
cane.
They make it. Oh, okay.
Maybe it's just not, it's just,
Oh, okay.
maybe it's not cooked down or something, or is that it, or?
I think it's cooked down more.
Oh,
Your
okay.
tongue is burned.
Okay, so quarter cup of, we are actually using some brown sugar too.
Yep.
But quarter cup of brown sugar, half a cup of molasses.
So I'm using today, just to mix it up, we're using sun butter. So this is a great alternative if you have a peanut or a nut allergy. So it's basically just sunflower seeds. So that's what we're using today, but you could easily use almond butter, peanut butter in the recipe as well. So we're using about a cup. All we need to do is just stick that in there.
Yeah, I like how you guys can cook like that, that just freaks me out.
We're just like adding things.
The art of cooking.
Well, if it makes you feel better,
No,
this
it's-
was 2 cups. I already used a cup, so I know there's about a cup in here. I'm not just making things up.
Okay.
And we're not going to be tasting this one.
Yeah, so if it doesn't taste that good, the one that we are tasting too. So, okay.
And I'm also adding a teaspoon of vanilla.
Yeah.
So what we need to do with this now is you just let this
Melt.
boil a little bit, and then we add in raisins and the cereal. Okay. Tip is less, and this is a good one. So once we get to adding the cereal, this is a great time to, you know, call someone strong in your life because it can get a little bit difficult to mix up, and just kind of let it. Okay, here we go. Any questions so far? Anyone doing anything fun for Labor Day?
Cookout.
Cookout? Okay. Can you use your whisk a little bit on that? Okay. That you find in the freezer section are frozen when they are in season. So
Ripeness. So a lot of times they actually can have more nutrients.
yeah, they absolutely can.
Fresh.
Did our thing boil? No. Did you turn it on?
I thought that was not enough.
All right, so that's that. All right, so we're doing raisins in this. This one, all 3 of these recipes, really, really high in fiber, so that's great if you're struggling with constipation, just wanting to increase your fiber a little bit, have high cholesterol and want to try to bring that down a little bit, so they're great, great for that as well. And higher fiber, if you're struggling to manage blood sugars related to diabetes, can also help with that as well.
Enjoying a high fiber dessert can help your body deal with the sugar a little bit better.
Yep.
Reduce the blood sugar spike.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so how would everyone like the
Good.
Apple cake.
Apple cake.
Good.
All right, well, while this is going, we can talk about the crisp, because why not? We can multitask, right?
Oh, totally.
Okay. So, this is So this is we're calling a winter fruit crisp. Like I said, this can be translated to any fruit. Same basic principle, you just want to use different fruits that are in season. So today we're doing apples and pears. Cranberries are not available in grocery stores yet, but when they are, they would make a really good addition to this.
There's a lot of rhubarb out there.
There is a lot of
So-
rhubarb out there right now. Okay, so do you want to slice apples
I
and
won't be
pears
slicing
for me?
over here.
While I do make the topping? Okay, so Caitlin used earlier when she was peeling this, one of my favorite kitchen tools, my corer. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? My apple corer. It's like the easiest way to like scoop that thing out and
Yes.
make it easy. So that's one of my favorite kitchen ingredients. This might be my other favorite one, a pastry blender. Has anyone seen this before? You can use this. It's really easy to use. You just gotta, or you could use forks or knives or anything like that. Okay, so we're gonna take some more butter, about 1/3 of a cup. Toss that.
This is boiling or bubbling.
Bubbling. Give it a few minutes.
That's the tiniest little
Cutting board here. So what you're gonna want to do is, let me send this over to you. Great, there you go. You can start throwing things in. Actually, this might be ready, so I'm gonna let you keep cutting and I'm gonna finish these. All right, so we're gonna put in about 3/4 of a cup of raisins. I'm gonna eyeball this, but you can definitely measure. Definitely measure if you want to. About 3/4 of a cup. And then we're gonna add in our Rice Krispies, Rice Krispies cereal. Also going to eyeball that. Oh, I think I lost one man overboard. Alright. And then we're gonna add in some corn flakes as well. These are the unsweetened ones. And you want to crush these up a little bit when you add them, so that you don't have huge pieces of corn flakes. All right, there we go.
Have you ever switched out like a Wheaties and a brown?
I was just thinking you
Puff
could
rice?
easily do like bran flakes.
Yep.
I don't know about, we probably could do Wheaties.
Yeah, you probably could. I can't see why not. This is actually also a great way to use up any cereal that you have sitting around. If you want to. I'm just gonna throw that right there. All right, so you just mix that up.
I don't know.
Am I smelling chocolate? Is that it up there? What
No,
am I-
it's molasses.
That's molasses.
It's molasses.
I'm gonna go like,
And actually, if you want to pass out our samples, because here, so I made some earlier. So all you do after you push them in.
Looks delicious.
Let me grab you a fork.
Forks are over here.
Right.
ginger.
Alright, so you just mix it all up together.
Dang, I knew we took Betty up there for a reason.
She'll get the food to you quicker.
That's the other reason.
Alright.
Oh, thank you.
Alright. Add this in. And I'm just using the back of my spoon to press this so you guys can kind of see this is what it looks like.
Cut me out because I'm thinking I should watch this.
Press it.
Step on my toes anyway. That's just a small one, perfect.
And this is also really easy to make with kids as long as you're supervising them around the hot stove, but it's really easy to make together.
So once it's in the pan, it's done.
Yeah,
So let it cool.
now
Only 'cause she
all we
sneaks
do is
over
let it
behind
cool
me
and then
when I'm not
what
looking.
you're getting out there, that's what it'll look like.
It just cools at room temperature?
Yeah, yeah, just cools at room temperature.
So the way you made it, that would be a gluten-free dessert, right?
Yeah, let me just make sure that these are certified, which they should be.
Gluten-free, nut-free.
Yep,
I'm liking the texture more than anything.
yeah. This would be a great gluten-free, nut-free dessert for
That's the
anyone.
other thing I'm looking
Oop,
for.
it's dead.
Texture.
Okay. Now we can go back to the crisp. So how are your apples coming?
I'm on the pears now.
Oh,
so
you're on
3 apples, 2 pears.
3 apples, 2 pears. Yeah. Thoughts? How's everyone liking the molasses squares? Yeah.
Good.
Good. All right. It's tasting mango.
The raisin instead of the chocolate chip, and the raisin tastes so good.
It's a nice little burst of flavor. Nice little, like a little chewy. All right. So last but not least, we're gonna make our crisp topping. So I put about 1/3 of a cup of butter in here. Another way to do this, if you don't want to mess with the pastry blender or chopping it up, is you can melt the butter ahead of time as well, and then just throw everything in and mix it up. Okay, so about a cup. And then we're gonna do, so here's another, I'm gonna reach over you, I'm sorry. Wheat germs. So this is another thing you can buy in the grocery store that you can add to your crisp topping to kind of increase the nutritional value of it. It adds in some vitamin E, it adds in protein, it adds vitamin A and folic acid, so it's really great. I don't use a lot of it, but I keep it in my fridge because it can chill there for a while and just mix it up. So about 1/4 of a cup of this.
Cinnamon and butter.
Yeah. Oh, I need brown sugar. About 1/4 cup of brown sugar. So a little bit of brown sugar. We're ready. And then 2 of those apples. Okay. And depending on how sweet your apples are, you can add a little bit of sugar to those as well. I also add a little bit of lemon juice just to brighten up the flavor a little bit. But depending on how sweet they are, you can add some sugar to there as well. But if they're super sweet, then you might not need to. Okay. There we go.
Okay, while you're doing that, I will
Serving up our apple crisp. Yep. And the nice thing about this is it's really deliciously served hot. But if you need to find a way to sneak some extra calories into your day, whether to help maintain weight, whatever it might be, it goes great with ice cream. It goes fantastic with ice cream. So. Alright, so all it is this is why this is my favorite. You don't even have to. I'm gonna hold it up a little bit. Just fun. My mom made me do this when I was younger, and I would bake with her. She'd be like, just.
Yeah, definitely a kid job.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I'm all about finding things that you can get helpers in the kitchen, whether they're children or adults. Just put them in. Here you go, do this.
If it smells good, I'll do it.
Well, you'd be getting a lot of cinnamon right now. If you like the smell of cinnamon, then you would like this job.
Half a scoop. Half a scoop. Half a scoop. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There we go. So this is kind of what it looks like. It looks like a crumbly topping like this. Everyone can see it. And then all you do is you take your fruit and just put it on top.
Don't worry about that.
How's it taste?
All right. Thank you. And then that's it. And then you just stick this in the oven at about 400-ish degrees, 40 minutes. You like it? Any questions?
Any thoughts on the crisp?
Any thoughts?
My favorite of the 3.
Really?
Like you care.
The thing to remember is sugar feeds every single cell in the body, not just cancer cells. So, keeping sugar out of your diet isn't necessarily going to be better for cancer because our body has this internal mechanism that it's going to keep our blood sugar at a certain level. So So it's gonna get the blood sugar from
Your muscles.
your muscles.
Or fat.
Yep, from other places. So that's kind of the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing to keep in mind is what has been shown to be correlated with cancer is obesity. So certain types of diets that might be high in overly processed foods and higher in certain types of sugar can lead to obesity, which can lead to cancer. So you kind of have to think about the middlemen and how they all play a role in it. So one of the most important things that I talk to my clients about, because cancer is my specialty, is are you staying nourished during treatment? Because ultimately that's what's going to be very beneficial for you. So trying to come up with ways to, and I've had clients say, I just really want a bowl of ice cream. Okay, well, let's add in the bowl of ice cream, and how can we balance it out in other ways? Can we add in a little bit of maybe like cooked apples or something like that to add in more fruit, or make a soup that might be higher in vegetables so that you can balance it out in other ways. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Can you speak more about the role of fiber in maintaining blood sugar?
I'm going to defer to you to that one.
Okay.
Caitlin's specialty is diabetes.
So all of
Talk more.
these recipes that we chose today are high in fiber, which is beneficial for so many things. It's beneficial for regularity in terms of your bowels. It's beneficial for your cholesterol. And it's beneficial for your blood sugar. When you eat something with a lot of fiber in it versus, I don't know, if I eat some of the sugar, your blood sugar is going to spike with this, and then it's going to drop, and it's just not going to last. It's like eating a pastry for breakfast. You feel good, you get the sugar spike, and then you crash.
You get the crash, and you feel tired, and then you need another pastry.
Yeah. Whereas eating something that's fruit-based, you have oats, you have nuts, things like that, your blood sugar is not going to spike as much, and it's going to stay more stable. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more satisfied, and it's more nutritious.
Yeah.
So that's my answer.
Yeah, that was a great answer. Any other questions?
What about agave? Because I haven't had white sugar in my house for ages, so I'll use either agave or honey, but I tend not to be a baker, so I don't, but.
Yeah, agave could definitely be used in place of sugar. It has a little bit lower on the glycemic index than regular sugar,
Which
means it's
Which
good
means
for you?
spikes your blood
If
sugar a little bit less.
So if you're
than
diabetic, that's a
normal
little
sugar.
better, okay.
But
But
like
it's
you said,
still-
the other types of sugars have more antioxidants, they have more nutrients in it than just processed sugar.
But it's also still sugar. So being aware that just because something is healthy, we can't just kind of go overboard with it and say, oh, I'm going to go, nuts and just add it in. So of course it could be a great substitute, but again, being aware that we can't add too much of it either way.
The recommendation of added sugar, I don't know if you said this, is only 6 teaspoons a day for women,
Yeah,
maybe 8 for men.
8 for men. Yeah, that sounds right.
So it's not very
What
much.
about the sugar alcohols, like xylitol and those things that people often substitute for?
They're metabolized differently, but they can cause a lot of GI distress because of the way that it's digested, pulls water into your gut and causes a lot of diarrhea.
And the other, for some people. And the other thing to remember with them is that, it's all kind of a balancing act. And that's what I try and, not one specific thing. If it's, if you only have it once in a while, is going to make a huge difference long term. But if you're like, let's say, replacing all of your, let's use like hydration as an example. If you're replacing all of your just water intake with something that's flavored with a sugar alcohol, even if it's not a sugar sweetened beverage like soda, well, that probably still isn't the most health beneficial for you. So for some people it can be helpful in managing blood sugars, especially if they're diabetic and their blood sugars run a little bit high, but I still wouldn't advocate for just, again, going nuts and adding it to everything because it won't spike your blood sugar.
What about using stevia instead of sugar?
It's an option.
Yep.
It's really new on the market. We don't know a lot about it, but it's natural.
It's natural.
Stevia.
Stevia. But I would say same principles apply. And it's like I tell people the same thing with like olive oil. Olive oil, I was reading somewhere it's the most overused condiment in the United States because we see olive oil and we're like, oh, this is so healthy, but we still need to be aware of how much we're adding to it.
Would that be the same for like sugar and raw
Mhm.
type of sugars too?
Yep.
Just a little less processed, but they're still sugar.
It's still sugar. Yep. So it's not saying that we can't use them or that if you prefer to use it rather than, Domino, you can't, but still being aware of how much it, because like Caitlin said, 6 teaspoons of added sugar is what the recommendation is, and that's added sugar period. So that's not just added sugar that we add into desserts, that includes added sugars found in pasta sauces and condiments and
How much did you say,
6 teaspoons.
That's not a lot.
No, I think the average right now is double that.
What, the average intake?
Average intake is double that.
So what would that be in grams? Because if you look at a nutritional label, it's gonna be in milligrams or grams, it's not gonna be in
What is
teaspoons.
it, 6 times 24?
Mhm.
Yes, 24. 24 grams.
24 grams a day.
But like we said, it's hard to say because the nutrition facts label doesn't take into account added versus natural.
Right, so if you had a quarter cup of these raisins, which has 24 grams of sugar in it, that's not added, that's natural.
Oh, so you're saying added, so the natural is different?
It's different.
But agave and honey is natural.
But it's still, you're adding it. So when we say natural sugar, we're talking
Oh.
about like the sugar that's in
In a food, okay, so in a solid.
You've got fiber and you've got other nutrients in this
Okay.
raisin to.
Exactly. So while honey and agave are natural, you're adding them into this
What?
crisp or whatever you're adding it to.
So beverages, things like sweet tea and
Exactly.
sodas.
I did a presentation a couple weeks ago about sugar sweetened beverages, and people were so surprised to find if you've got like one of those like sweetened like Pure Leaf, I think, whatever, one of those type. There's an equivalent of 12 packs of sugar in that sweet leaf. Yeah, it's 12 packets of sugar in that sweet leaf. But, you know, if you got an unsweetened, and let's say even like you really just wanted to add 1 pack of sugar, you're already helping yourself out a significant amount by adding it in yourself. Again, if we can go for the less sugar sweetened beverages, that would absolutely be, you know, beneficial because it can be more hydrating, but it's something to think about.
So I'm curious, sorry. Diet Coke, that's a pretty popular drink, so, tell me all the bad things about that.
I am going to say similar things to what I've been saying. You know, if you want to have one a day, one every other day, I tell people don't treat it as your hydration. If you want to do in a controlled amount, do a little bit, you know, a serving, 8 to 12 ounces, I think that's fine. Because in the long run, if you're balancing your diet in other ways, probably won't make a huge difference.
The research out there is really
This is the sweet, but you don't get that associated rise in blood sugar. So your body's like, what is going on right now? I need something. And that's usually when. And that's where some of the research where it says, you know, diet soda can be linked to weight gain.
Exactly.
It's that component. Like your body isn't sure what just happened, so it starts craving more sugar, and then that can lead to.
So in a sense, you might as well get the sugar and kind of, in a sense, you know what I mean?
That it can impact it from that way. So, and then if you were, and people ask me all the time, like, what if I'm just gonna juice? I'm just gonna, drink juice all day. Well, then you're missing out on protein. You're missing out on fiber. You're missing out on all of these important nutrients that can help keep you nourished, cancer treatment or not cancer treatment.
I've had this cleanse. I kept it.
Well,
try it out.
Try it. It sounds delicious.
Just haven't gone out and bought a big thing of chia seeds, and then you're stuck with the big chia seeds and the big thing. So.
You can get them already milled at Giant. Actually they got a combo flax chia. It's already
really?
milled. Yeah, that you don't have to. These chia seeds you'll have
several days and you're just drinking juice or doing certain things, and then you're missing out on a lot of calories and nutrients that you need, especially during treatment.
And then there's for some of our clients who do it for weight loss purposes, you kind of have that rebound effect where you're doing a cleanse for 3 or 4 days and you're not eating enough, and then you get to the end of it and you feel really, really hungry. And then of course it makes sense that you're going to want to eat a little bit more because you've been hungry for 3 or 4 days. So no, the thing again to remember is that
Thanks for coming out. Behave. Well, what the hell, that's fine.